Welcome back, students. The purpose of this video is to help you through the third review over our first semester final exam review. So this one's going to cover systems, mainly systems of equations, but a little bit of systems of inequalities as well. So to start off with systems, there are three ways to solve a system of equations. There is solving by graphing, solving by substitution, and solving by elimination. So a system means that you have more than one equation, and you have three possibilities, not only three ways, but you also have three possibilities for what your solution could be. You could have your two lines that intersect at a single point, which would mean that you have a single solution that is said to be consistent and independent. You might have two lines that never intersect, meaning they're parallel lines, which means that they would never have any point in common. That's going to be no solution. That would be inconsistent. Or you could graph your two lines and it could turn out that they're the same line, which means that they would have infinitely many points and infinitely many solutions because they have infinitely many points in common, every point that would be on the line. So we're going to solve this first one by graphing. Both of these lines, both of these equations are good for us to graph because they're already solved for y. So for my first line, I'm going to get my line tool. My first line has a y-intercept. That y-intercept is the number directly after x, so mine's -2. So on the y-axis, I'm going to plot a point at -2. My slope is +2. The number in front of x is the slope. So it's positive, which means I'm going to go up 2, and then thinking of that as a fraction, it's going to be over 1. So I'm going to graph my first line. Then I'm going to get the line tool again, and I'm going to graph the second line on the same coordinate plane. So this time, it's a y-intercept down at -5. So on the y-axis, I plot a point at -5. And then the slope is +3, which means I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, and then to the right by 1. So here is it's not my solution, but here is my graph. It has both of my lines. My solution is the point of intersection if the two lines intersect. If they were parallel, again, it's no solution, and if they're the same line, it's infinitely many. Mine intersected a single point, and it's this point right here. So I'm not finished with my question. What I need to do over here is in my solution box, I need to type in my solution. It's an ordered pair, so make sure that you click that you're going to be using an ordered pair. And this ordered pair would be the x-coordinate of 3 and the y-coordinate of 4. All right, and then as always, please make sure that you check your work as you go to make sure that you're right and that you understand the process, so then you are prepared for whatever may come your way on the final. All right, so question number 1, we solved that system by graphing. Question number 2, we're going to solve by using substitution. All right, so on a work page, question number 2, we have y equals 2x plus 1. That one wouldn't be bad to graph, but I don't have a graph in front of me. Okay, 5x plus 4y equals 30. That one I wouldn't want to graph. Okay, it wouldn't be too bad, but I'd have to first solve for y, then figure out what's my slope, what's my y-intercept. And again, I don't have a graph in front of me. So substitution's the way to go on this one. And the reason why substitution is a good route to take on this one is because the first equation already has a variable all by itself. So because we already have a variable all by itself, I'm going to write these out separately. We have y equals 2x plus 1. If I'm using substitution, it's helpful to write them side by side. Because I know that y is the same thing as 2x plus 1, what I'm going to do is over here in my first equation where I see y, I'm going to replace it with 2x plus 1. So I'm going to work on rewriting this equation. 5x plus 4 times y. But wait a second. We just said that y is 2x plus 1. So I'm going to put that in parentheses, 2x plus 1, and then equals 30. Get rid of parentheses by multiplying. So this is going to give me 5x plus 4 times 2x is 8x. And then 4 times +1 is +4 equals 30. So I'm going to combine my like terms. So 5x plus 8x is going to give me 13x plus 4 is equal to 30. And then I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides. That'll leave me with 13x, because these cancel out, equals 26. Then divide both sides by 13. And we get that x equals 2. Okay, so that's telling me that these two lines intersect at a single point. I know the x-coordinate of that point is 2, but what's the y-coordinate? Well, when you use substitution, you're not just going to substitute once, but you substitute twice. All right, so I'm going to plug this back into my original equation. So y equals 2, and then I'm going to replace x with 2. okay, because that's what I said. X is 2, so I'm replacing this x with 2, and then plus 1. So this is going to give me y equals 4 plus 1, so this is going to give me y is equal to 5. All right, I could write my answer as an ordered pair, x followed by y, or how Alex wants me to type it in is just typing them in separately. So x is 2, y is 5. Question number 3, it doesn't tell me what method to use. I'm not going to use graphing because the graph's not provided, nor am I going to use substitution because neither of these equations have a variable that's already been solved for, that's already by itself. So instead what I'm going to use is my third method, which is called elimination. So the goal with elimination is to be able to add your two equations together and to get a variable to eliminate. So right now I have negative 8 plus 3, which will give me a negative 5x. I have negative 7 plus 2, which will give me a negative 5y. Nothing eliminated there. So that means I need to do a little bit of work before I begin. I need to pick either to eliminate x or to eliminate y. It really does not matter. Yours, you might have a more clear answer because maybe you have some nicer numbers to work with. But mine's a negative 8 and mine's a 3. Mine's a negative 7 and mine's a 2. Really nothing too nice there. I think what I'll go with, let's go for y. So if I choose to eliminate y, that means I need to get the same number in front of my y terms, but I need them to have opposite signs. So mine already have the opposite signs. This is a negative and that's a positive, but I need these to be the same number. So right now I have a 7 and I have a 2. So what's the smallest number that 7 and 2 both go into? And that's 14. So I need to multiply the entire equations to make it so this becomes a negative 14 and this becomes a positive 14. So negative 7 times 2 is what's going to give me negative 14. And positive 2 times 7 is what's going to give me that positive 14y. So this is now going to need distribution. I can't just multiply one term. I have to multiply them all. And so 2 times negative 8x is going to give me negative 16x. 2 times negative 7y is going to give me negative 14y. And then equals 2 times 19, again, I've been saying it, please make sure that you use a calculator to help with the basic arithmetic, but 2 times positive 19 is going to give me positive 38. Then my second equation, everything gets multiplied by 7. So 7 times 3 is positive 21. It still has an x. 7 times 2y is going to give me positive 14y. Equals 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. So now I'm ready to add my two equations together. Negative 16 plus 21, if you need to use a calculator, use a calculator, but that's going to give me 5x. Negative 14y plus 14y, those zero out, they cancel out. So I just cross those out and I bring down the equal sign. And then 38 minus 28 would give me a positive 10. So now my new equation is 5x equals 10. So 5 times what is 10? Well, divide both sides by 5, and I figure out pretty quickly that x is equal to 2. Now go back to one of the original equations. I'm going to go back to 3x plus 2y equals negative 4. And now I'm going to replace x, and I'm going to erase it, and I'm going to replace it with 2, because we just said that x is 2. So 3 times 2 is going to give me 6, plus 2 times y is negative 4. I'm going to minus 6 on both sides. That'll give me 2y is equal to negative 10. Divide both sides by 2, and that gives me y equals negative 5. So this would be the ordered pair 2 comma negative 5. I'm going to type it in separately because that's how Alex wants me to type it in. The x coordinate would be 2, and the y coordinate would be negative 5. Question number 4 has two systems for you to solve. My system A I've written off to the side, and I realize that this is perfect for elimination. It's not perfect for graphing because I don't have a graph, nor is it solved for y, and it's not good for substitution because I don't have a variable all by itself. So this one's set up for elimination because we have x's followed by y's followed by equals followed by the numbers. So I'm going to try to go ahead and just add these two equations together, because if I look at my x's, I see that I have a 6 and a negative 6, which means that when I add 6 plus negative 6, they cancel each other out. All right, and that's my goal, is when I use elimination, I want to get a variable to eliminate. So I eliminate those. But then when I take negative y plus y, those also cancel each other out, meaning I have nothing left on this side, so I'll use 0 as a placeholder. Negative 5 plus 5 also gives me 0. So if this happens, if both your variables eliminate, it's either going to be no solution or the system has infinitely many solutions. look to see if what you're left with is true or false. If it's false, it's no solution. If it's true, it's infinitely many. So since mine 0 does equal 0 is a true statement, I'm going to have my first answer as being the system has infinitely many solutions. The second system, x plus 4y equals 7, and negative x plus 4y equals 1. This is also set up for elimination. If I add these two together, x plus negative x cancel each other out. But 4y plus 4y, 4 plus 4, use Desmos if you need to, that gives me positive 8y equals 7 plus 1 would also be 8. So these, both of the variables eliminated, which is why it was either no solution or infinitely many. Here, only one variable eliminates, which means I just need to keep solving, and I'll get my one unique solution. So divide both sides by 8 for me. These cancel out, leaving me with y is equal to 1. And then I'll plug it back into one of my original equations. So x plus 4y equals 7. I'm going to erase my y and replace it with the 1 that I just got. So this gives me x plus 4 times 1 is 4 equals 7. So what number plus 4 is 7? Well, if I need to, I can subtract 4 on both sides, and I get that x is 3. So this one would be the ordered pair. X always goes first, followed by the y. So this one has a unique solution because one of the variables eliminated, but the other one didn't. And the first one, I had both variables eliminate, which is why it was either no solution, or in my case, since it was true, it was infinitely many solutions. All right, so be on the lookout for that on question number 4. You'll have 2 that you'll need to solve, and more than likely, you're going to have variables eliminate, which makes it a special type of system. Question number 5 is a word problem. This one's a pretty easy word problem because all we have to do is translate directly to the mathematical symbols. So the sum, so sum means plus, difference means minus, but the line says sum. I don't start off with a plus sign. Wherever I see the word and is where that plus sign goes, or it's telling me the sum of 2 numbers, so that means I'm going to have to add whatever these 2 numbers are. Is a keyword for equals. One number is 4 times as large as the other number. All right, so notice that I can't finish writing all this out because I need to start off by defining 2 variables. So my 2 unknown values, I'm going to use x and y. I don't know what my first number is, and I also don't know what my second number is. So my 2 equations, since I have 2 variables, I need 2 equations. My first one says the sum, so I'm going to take x plus y is, so equals 55. My second sentence, my second equation, it says one number is, so one number, so pick one. I'm going to do x is 4 times, so 4 times as large as the other one. So my other number is y. All right, so I have x plus y is 55. I also have x equals 4 times y. So it's your choice, especially dependent upon what they give you for this problem. Are you going to use substitution or are you going to use elimination? Mine's set up perfectly for substitution because I have x equals 4 times y, and then x plus y equals 55. Mine's not lined up. Okay, so notice my y term, this isn't lined up. So I'm going to use substitution. So I'm going to rewrite this so my 2 equations are side by side. And then I'm going to substitute, since x is the same thing as 4y, instead of writing x over here, I'm going to replace it with 4y. So instead of writing x, I replace it with 4y plus y equals 55. So 4y plus y will give me 5y equals 55. And then divide both sides by 5, and that's going to give me y is 11. So my second number is 11. What's my first number? Well, whenever you use substitution, you substitute twice. So now I'm going to replace my y in one of my original equations, and I'm going to replace y with 11. So I'm going to have 4 times 11, so x is 44. So double check. What's 44 plus 11? Hey, that's 55. What is 4 times 11? That's 44. All right, so then I would just type in my answers. Mine says larger number, smaller number, so I need to think about that a little bit. My larger number is 44, and the smaller one of those would be 11. And that is how you're going to do your first of your story problems, is just translate. Your second of your story problems for systems You're also going to read through it entirely and still define your two variables, but this time the equations that you come up with won't be as easy. So this one says 1 month Bill rented 5 movies and 2 video games for a total of $31. The next month he rented 3 movies and 8 video games for a total of $56. Find the rental cost for each movie and each video game. So right there, that last sentence, that's what we're trying to find. So those are going to be our variables. So I'm going to go ahead and let X represent the rental cost for the movie. I'm going to let Y represent the rental cost for the video game. If you wanted to use M and V, you could do that as well. I'm just going to go for the standard X and Y. So my first one comes from the first month, his first bill. His bill rented 5 movies, so 5 times however much that movie costs, plus 2 video games, so 2 times however much that video game costs, and we knew his total bill was 31. So that's why I'm adding them together, because total is the answer to an addition problem. All right, so that came to his total bill. So I could probably use some guess and check, but if these are decimals, it would be a little bit harder. So I'm going to go and get a second equation since I have 2 unknowns, and then I'm going to solve my system. So for the second month, he rented 3 movies. So that's going to be 3 times X, and so plus 8 video games. That'll be 8 times Y for a total of 56. So now I need to either figure out, am I going to use substitution or elimination? And since I have an X followed by Y equals, since it's lined up vertically, I'm going to go for elimination. If I add them together right now, nothing's going to eliminate because I don't have the same number in front of my variables. I need to get the same number with opposite signs. So I'm going to go for eliminating Y because 2 and 8, the smallest number that they can both go into is 8. So I'm going to get one of them to be an 8 and the other one to be a -8. So I already have the 8, so that means I'm going to take my first equation and multiply to get it to a -8. I'm going to multiply everything by a -4. So I'm going to distribute this, and -4 times 5 is going to give me -20x. -4 times positive 2y is going to give me -8y. And then I'll go to a calculator. -4 times 31 gives me -124. So equals -124. All right, so this is my system that I'm trying to solve now. So it's ready to go ahead and add together. 3 plus a -20 is -17, keeping the x. My 8y minus 8y eliminates. Bring down the equal sign. And then we'll go back to the calculator and figure out what is 51. What is 51 plus -124? And that's -73. So our goal is to get x by itself. Right now it's being multiplied by -17. So the opposite of multiply is divide. And that gives us x is equal to, and then -73 divided by, so -73 divided by -17, that gives me positive 73 over 17. That's not very nice. That's not going to be a number that I would think that this would be. So that means that I probably made a mistake somewhere. And that's okay. I need to go back and I need to figure out what was my mistake. So I go back and I check my work, and I have 5x plus 2y equals 31. That's good. I need to get my y's to eliminate, so I multiplied by -4. And so that gave me -20. Okay, that looks good. My second equation was 3 movies, so 3x plus 8 times y. Oh, there's my mistake. I put 51. I should have put 56. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to change that to be a 56. And this is the point of homework, is to try it on your own, to do the process, to practice, practice, practice. And when you make mistakes, which will happen, hopefully you're using pencil and eraser, erase it and figure it out. All right, so that means that this number is going to change. Instead of being a -73, I need to go back to my calculator and figure out what is 56 plus a -124. That's a -68. So this is going to be a -68 right here. And then divide that by -17, and let's see if that's going to be a nicer number. And it is. It's a lot nicer number. -68 divided by -17 is 4. All right, so for mine, I get that x is equal to 4. So that's saying that the rental cost for a movie is $4. That's a pretty steep I guess it depends on what type of movie you get, Blockbuster, new release, or whatever, but $4 for that rental. The other one, the video games, now we need to figure out what that is. So we'll go back to one of our relationships. We knew that 5 movies, so 5 times 4, plus 2 times the cost of the video game is equal to 31. So I'm just substituting in, instead of writing X, I'm replacing it with 4, since we now know that $4 is the cost for a rental, to rent a movie. So this is going to give me 20 plus 2y is equal to 31. I'm going to subtract 20 on both sides, and that's going to give me 2y is equal to positive 11. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and that's going to give me, if I type in 11 divided by 2, this one does give me a decimal. I'm going to go ahead and convert it to a fraction, or if I want it back in decimal form, I can hit that button again. But $5.50. Okay, that's a pretty nice number too. Okay, I know normally we don't usually work with decimals, but in the world of money, 25 cents, 50 cents, 10 cents, all of those are pretty nice numbers. So $5.50. So there we go. Next thing I'll do is double check to make sure that I'm right. And then it looks like we have one more question that remains. All right, so this last question that we're going to have, also working with systems, but it's going to be an inequality, since so far all we've been working with are equations. So when you're solving a system of equations, you get to solve by graphing, substitution, or elimination. But whenever you're solving a system of inequalities, you're going to have to solve by graphing. So first thing is we're going to graph both of these boundary lines. So I'm going to get a line tool, and my first boundary line has a y-intercept at -7. So I'm going to plot a point at -7. And then the slope, m, the number in front of x, tells me how to move. So that's going to be a positive 2. So I'm going to go up 2 and to the right by 1. That first boundary line is saying y values have to be more than, so they can't be equal to, which means I need to get my tool that's going to change this from a solid line to a dashed line. My second inequality has a y-intercept down at -3, and then the slope is -5, so I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then to the right by 1. That one needs to stay a solid line because it says or equal to. All right, so now what I need to do is notice that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 regions that this plane has been split into. We need to figure out which one of these are we going to shade. So here's my first inequality. Y is greater than 2x minus 7. Remember, this is the dashed one that I see over there on my coordinate plane. I need to pick a point that's not on that line. Okay, so I'm going to pick any point that's not on that line. I think I'm going to go with 2, 2. Right there, 2, 2. So here's my x, here's my y. I'm going to plug it in. I get y, so I replace that with 2, is greater than. I have 2, and then in parentheses I have x, which I'm replacing with 2 minus 7. So is 2 more than 4 minus 7? Is 2 more than -3? Is that true or false? That's true. If it's false, okay, here's my dashed line. If it's false, okay, I know that 1 and 2 would not be where my solutions lie. It'd have to be on the side opposite, and I have to pick a new test point that's in either region 3 or 4. But since it's true, it means that region 2 might be a possible solution. All right, which means that region 3, look at my dashed line. Since 2 was true, that means region 3 and region 4, which are on the opposite side of the dashed line, can't be where the solutions lie. So now I need to figure out, is it in region 1 or is it in region 2? So now I need to plug my point into the second inequality, which is y is less than or equal to -5x minus 3. So I'm going to replace y with 2 is less than or equal to -5 times 2. So I'm going to replace x with 2 minus 3. 2 is less than or equal to -5 times 2 is -10. -10 minus 3. This is 2 is less than or equal to -13. So is -13 more than 2? That's obviously false. All right, so because that was false, it was in region 2. It means that the only other region where my shading can lie is going to be in region 1. So I'm going to get my shading tool. I'm going to click over here in region 1, and then I'm going to check my work. Very easy to make a mistake on this one. Okay, so please make sure that you're checking your work. That one had 7 questions, and now hopefully you have all 7 correct and that you are comfortable with solving systems of equations as well as inequalities using any of the methods.